250. That is how many oil tankers are sitting at anchor right now in the Gulf of Oman, the Arabian Sea, and the Red Sea approaches. Not because they have nowhere to go, not because they have no cargo, not because the ports are full, because the captains will not move them. $300 million of steel. 22 crew members, a full load of crude oil worth $60 million at current prices, sitting, waiting, burning $50,000 a day in port costs and fuel consumption even at anchor, because sailing costs more than staying still. The U.S. Navy has offered every one of those captains the same thing: a destroyer on each beam, a combat air patrol overhead, mine-cleared lanes through the corridor updated every 6 hours, the most capable naval escort package ever assembled in the history of commercial shipping. The captains are still saying no. 3 carrier strike groups cannot move 250 ships. The USS Gerald R. Ford cannot move them. The USS Abraham Lincoln cannot move them. The USS George H.W. Bush, which crossed into the theater 72 hours ago, cannot move them either. The most powerful navy in human history has been unable to convince a single commercial tanker captain to sail through a 6-mile corridor. This is not a story about naval power. This is a story about a phone call that happens before any captain leaves port. A phone call to an office in London that no admiral can make for him. A conversation that no destroyer can join. A signature on a document that no carrier air wing can provide. Subscribe to War Vision. We do not chase the headline, we decode the decision behind it. Type Lloyd's in the comments if you already know why 3 carriers are not enough. Let us be precise about what the U.S. Navy is actually offering. The escort package assembled for Hormuz tanker transits is built around a standard convoy formation. 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, one positioned 2,000 yards off the tanker's port beam, one off the starboard beam. Each destroyer carries 96 vertical launch cells armed with SM-6 interceptors for air and missile threats, ESSM quad-pack interceptors for close-in aerial defense, and a Phalanx CIWS as the last line against anything that gets through the outer layers. Above the formation, a combat air patrol of 2 FA-18E Super Hornets maintains station at altitude, scanning for drone launches, fast attack craft, and any aerial threat inbound from the Iranian coastline. Ahead of the formation, 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters work the lanes with dipping sonar and surface search radar, looking for submarine threats and providing 30-minute advance warning of fast attack craft concentrations. The mine clearance picture. Every morning before dawn, MH-53E Sea Dragons fly the tanker corridor, sweeping the declared safe lane. The lane is resurveyed by AN/AQS 20A sonar tow before each convoy departs. A position fix is generated for every confirmed mine contact. The safe lane boundary is updated and transmitted to all vessels. In total, the escort package for a single tanker transit through the Strait of Hormuz involves 2 destroyers, 4 helicopters, 2 fighter jets on station, continuous mine surveillance, and the full defensive coverage of a carrier strike group 100 nautical miles behind the formation. The cost of that escort package per transit, approximately $2. $1 million in direct operating costs per crossing. The U.S. Navy is offering $2, $1 million of protection per voyage, for free. To any tanker willing to sail, 250 captains have looked at that offer and said no. To understand why, you need to understand what happens before the captain ever reaches the pier. The tanker captain does not make the sailing decision alone. He never has. This is one of the most misunderstood facts about commercial shipping, and it is the fact that makes the Navy's escort offer structurally insufficient, regardless of how many destroyers are in the formation. Before any commercial vessel sails from any port to any destination, 4 separate parties must agree that the voyage is legal, insured, and commercially viable. Miss any one of them and the ship does not move. Party 1, the ship owner, the company that owns the hull. They have a vessel worth between $80 million and $350 million, depending on the tanker class. The ship owner does not authorize a voyage their vessel might not return from unless the insurance position is airtight. The ship owner's call to the captain is simple: do not sail without confirming cover. Party 2, the cargo owner, the oil company or trading house that owns the crude oil in the tanks, $60 million of product. They have their own insurance on the cargo, separate from hull insurance. If the cargo insurer will not cover a Hormuz transit, the cargo owner will not load the cargo. You cannot sail a tanker through a war zone carrying $60 million in oil that nobody has insured. Party 3, the flag state. Every ship sails under a national flag. Panama, Liberia, Marshall Islands, Bahamas. The flag state has regulatory authority over the vessel. If the flag state's maritime authority issues a navigation warning, which every major flag state has issued for the Strait of Hormuz since February 28th, the captain sailing into that zone without explicit approval is sailing outside his certificate of compliance. He loses his license if anything goes wrong. Party 4, the P&I Club. Protection and indemnity insurance. This is the coverage that pays for third-party liability. crew injury and death, environmental damage, collision liability. P&I clubs are mutual insurers owned by ship owners. Every major P&I club has suspended automatic cover for Hormuz transits. Without P&I cover, a captain who sails and causes any incident, even a minor collision, faces personal unlimited liability under maritime law. 4 parties. Every one of them must say yes before the captain can accept the Navy's escort offer. The Navy has no seat at any of those 4 tables. The destroyer cannot attend the shipowner's board meeting. The carrier air wing cannot sign the cargo insurance endorsement. The Combat Air Patrol cannot issue a flag state compliance certificate. The Navy's escort begins at the pier. The decision that matters happens in offices in London, Oslo, Athens, and Tokyo, weeks before the ship ever approaches Hormuz. Let us go through each wall the captain faces, one by one. Wall 1, the war risk insurance void. Standard marine hull insurance covers fire, collision, grounding, and weather. It does not cover war. War is a separate policy. And the war risk insurance market for commercial shipping runs through a single concentrated hub, the Lloyd's of London market, and a small number of major marine insurers in London, New York, and Scandinavia. Before February 28th, war risk premiums for a Hormuz transit were approximately 0.05% of hull value per voyage. For a $200 million VLCC, a very large crude carrier, that is $100,000 per trip. Expensive but manageable against a $60 million cargo. After February 28th, the Lloyd's war risk market suspended automatic cover for the Persian Gulf, Gulf of Oman, and Red Sea approaches entirely. Not raised premiums, suspended cover. The underwriters stopped writing the risk at any price until they could assess the threat environment. By the second week of March, a limited number of underwriters began offering war risk cover again for vessels willing to transit. The premium, between 2 and 5% of hull value per voyage. Let us do the math on what that means. A VLCC with a hull value of $200 million pays 3% war risk premium for a single Hormuz transit. That is $6 million per crossing. One way. The cargo the tanker carries, approximately $60 million in crude at current prices. The freight rate, what the tanker earns for the voyage, approximately $3 to $5 million for a typical VLCC voyage from the Gulf to Asia. The insurance premium is $6 million, the freight revenue is $4 million, the premium is 150% of the voyage revenue. You spend $6 million to earn $4 million before you account for fuel, port costs, crew, and the possibility that the ship does not come back. The war risk premium alone makes every Hormuz voyage structurally loss-making for the shipowner. The Navy's free escort does not change this arithmetic. It changes the probability of a hit. It does not change the cost of insuring against the probability that remains. Wall 2, the mine exclusion clause. Even among the underwriters willing to write war risk cover at premium rates, the policies contain exclusions. The most significant, mine damage. War risk policies written for Hormuz transits since March have universally included mine exclusion clauses. The underwriter covers missile damage, drone strikes, and fast boat attacks. They do not cover mine detonation. This is not arbitrary. The actuarial reasoning is straightforward. Missile and drone threats are defended against by the escort. The insurance probability model can account for escort effectiveness against those threats. Mine risk cannot be modeled with the same confidence because nobody, not the Navy, not the insurers, not the satellite operators, knows exactly how many mines are still in the corridor or where they are positioned with sufficient precision to price the risk. An exclusion clause for mine damage means that if a VLCC hits a mine, the $200 million hull is uninsured. The ship owner absorbs the loss. The cargo is uninsured. The cargo owner absorbs the loss. The crew liability falls back on the P&I club, which may or may not accept the claim if the vessel sailed knowingly into a mine risk zone under a policy that excluded mine damage. The Navy's mine clearing operations reduce the mine risk. They do not eliminate it. And the insurance market does not write policies against risks it cannot precisely quantify. A swept lane is not a guaranteed clear lane. The insurers know this. They priced it into the exclusion clause. Wall 3, the crew's legal right of refusal. Under the Maritime Labor Convention, the international treaty governing seafarer rights ratified by 97 countries, a seafarer has the legal right to refuse a voyage they believe presents an imminent, serious danger to their life. This is not discretionary. It is a treaty, right enforceable in any signatory nation's court. A tanker captain cannot order his crew to sail through a minefield into an active war zone if the crew invokes their MLC right of refusal. He cannot fire them. He cannot replace them on short notice. A VLCC requires a minimum crew of 22 to sail legally. If 6 crew members refuse, which is a legal threshold in several flag states, the ship is legally unable to depart. In practice, crew refusal has been widespread across the Gulf fleet since late February. Seafarers' unions in the Philippines, which supplies approximately 25% of the world's merchant mariners, issued formal guidance to members on February 29th, stating that Hormuz transits constitute a credible imminent danger and that MLC refusal rights are applicable. The Navy's escort protects the ship. It does not protect the seafarer's right to refuse to be on it. These are separate legal frameworks operating on separate authorities. An admiral cannot override the Maritime Labor Convention. Wall 4, the flag state restriction. The Marshall Islands Maritime Authority, which flags approximately 12% of global shipping tonnage, issued navigation warning MSOW 2603 on March 1st, designating the Persian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, and Gulf of Oman as high-risk zones requiring specific voyage approval before any Marshall Islands flagged vessel may enter. To obtain voyage approval under MSOW 2603, the shipowner must demonstrate confirmed war risk cover without mine exclusion clauses, P&I cover confirming war risk acceptance, crew consent documentation under MLC, and a filed voyage plan with the Maritime Authority showing escort coordination confirmation. The Marshall Islands flag state requirement is not the most restrictive. Panama, which flags 17% of global tonnage, suspended voyage approvals for Hormuz entirely through March 15th, and has issued them on a case-by-case basis since then, each requiring a full 72-hour review cycle. A captain operating a Panama-flagged vessel who sails without voyage approval is sailing outside his flag state's authority. He is personally liable under Panamanian maritime law. His captain's certificate is at risk. His career ends if the vessel is lost or involved in an incident. The Navy's escort does not generate Marshall Islands voyage approval. It does not satisfy Panama's 72-hour review cycle. It does not issue flag state compliance certificates. Wall 5, the one-tanker rule. This is the wall that makes all 4 previous walls permanent, regardless of how the others are resolved. The Strait of Hormuz shipping lane is 6 nautical miles wide. A VLCC is 330 meters long. At 15 knots, it takes a fully loaded VLCC 45 minutes to clear the strait from entry to open water. One burning tanker, not sunk, not destroyed, simply on fire and stopped, in that 6-mile corridor closes the lane entirely. A vessel stopped and ablaze in the shipping channel is an unpassable obstacle. A 330-meter ship on fire with black smoke at 200 feet creates a navigation hazard that no other vessel can safely pass at any margin. The lane does not close by sinking. It closes by stopping. Iran does not need to sink a tanker. Iran does not need to defeat the Navy escort. Iran needs one crew to abandon ship, one fire large enough that the master stops the vessel, one incident that produces a stopped burning hull in a 6 nautical mile corridor. When that happens, not if when, because one event in a mine-seeded active war zone over 250 potential voyages is not a probability question but a timeline question, the lane closes. Every voyage behind it stops. Every insurance policy written for Hormuz transits is immediately reevaluated. Every underwriter who wrote cover at premium rates faces a claims event that may exceed their modeled exposure. The one-tanker rule means that a single incident resets the entire insurance market to zero. The war risk premiums go back to suspended. The mine exclusion clauses become universal. The flag state approvals are revoked. The crew refusals accelerate. Every captain sailing through Hormuz knows that his voyage is not just his risk. It is the event that determines whether any other captain can sail after him. That is not a risk. A professional mariner with 25 years at sea and a family at home accepts for a freight rate of $4 million when the insurance premium alone is $6 million, and the one-tanker rule means his fire closes the lane for every ship behind him. The Navy is offering to protect the voyage. The captain is calculating whether the voyage should happen at all. Let us put the complete cost equation on the table. A VLCC tanker voyage from Ras Tanura, Saudi Arabia, through Hormuz to Ningbo, China. Hull value, $200 million. Cargo value at current prices, $60 million. Normal freight rate pre-conflict, $2, $5 million. Current spot freight rate with war premium, $8 to $12 million. Ship owners who will sail are charging 4 times normal rates. Now the costs. War risk insurance at 3% of hull, $6 million. Mine exclusion clause included, meaning mine damage is uninsured regardless of premium paid. Additional crew war bonus, international transport. Workers' Federation guidelines specify a war zone bonus of 100% of base salary per day in a designated war risk area. For a 22-person crew on a 4-day transit, approximately $180,000, flag state voyage approval processing and legal fees, $15,000 to $40,000 depending on flag state. P&I Club war risk endorsement surcharge, approximately $250,000 for the voyage. Total additional cost for a single Hormuz transit, approximately $6, $5 million. Freight revenue at war premium rates, $10 million. Net margin above war costs, $3, $5 million before fuel, crew wages, port costs, and the $200 million uninsured mine risk sitting under the hull the entire way. The economics work? Barely. For the ship owner willing to absorb uninsured mine risk on a $200 million asset. Now add the factor no spreadsheet captures. If the vessel hits a mine with a mine exclusion clause in the war risk policy, the ship owner's $200 million hull is gone. Not reduced. Gone. The insurance pays nothing for the hull. The cargo insurer pays nothing for the cargo. The total uninsured loss in a single mine event, $260 million minimum. The potential upside of completing the voyage, $3, $5 million net. The potential downside of a mine event, $260 million uninsured loss, plus crew liability, environmental liability, and flag state liability. That is in 74 to 1 downside to upside ratio on the worst case scenario. No rational ship owner with fiduciary duty to shareholders accepts a 74 to 1 worst case exposure for a $3, $5 million net margin. Not when they can anchor in the Gulf of Oman, burn $50,000 a day in waiting costs, and preserve the $200 million hull intact. The Navy's Escort changes the probability that the worst case occurs. It does not change the magnitude of the worst case when it does. The captain's refusal is not fear, it is arithmetic. Here is what this analysis does not mean, and the distinction matters. Some tankers are moving. A small number of voyages have been completed under Escort since the mine clearance operation began. These are not random. They follow a specific profile. Vessels with government cargo, ships carrying oil for strategic petroleum reserve replenishment, where the cargo owner is a government entity willing to absorb uninsured risk because national energy security outweighs commercial insurance logic. These vessels sail because their cargo owner is not subject to the same fiduciary constraints as a publicly traded oil company. Vessels under military charter, ships operating under direct U.S. military sea lift command authority, sailing under government indemnification rather than commercial insurance. The U.S. government can indemnify a voyage that no Lloyd's underwriter will cover because the government's balance sheet is not subject to the same risk modeling that drives commercial insurance decisions. Vessels from nations with state insurance. China's PICC and Sinosure have provided war risk cover for Chinese-flagged tankers transiting with Chinese naval escort as part of separate diplomatic arrangements. Those vessels are not in the 250 waiting at anchor. They are moving through separate arrangements that exist outside the Lloyd's market entirely. The honest picture is this: the commercial tanker fleet is not moving. Government-controlled vessels and state-insured ships are moving in limited numbers through specific arrangements. The 250 ships at anchor are commercial vessels operating under the normal rules of the global shipping market. And the global shipping market's rules have not changed, regardless of how many American carriers are in the theater. The second honest caveat: the mine clearance picture is improving. Every day the Sea Dragons fly reduces the verified mine count in the corridor. As the mine risk decreases to a level where actuarial modeling becomes possible again, the Lloyd's underwriters will begin writing cover without mine exclusion clauses. When they do, the war risk premium will drop. When it drops below the freight rate, the economic logic of sailing returns. The strait does not open when the military situation is resolved. The strait opens when an underwriter in London decides the risk is modelable again. Those are different timelines. And the military situation being resolved is only one input into the underwriter's model. Now step back from the captain and look at the full picture of what Iran accomplished with a strategy that never required winning a single naval battle. The United States Navy destroyed Iran's fleet. It eliminated Iran's shore-based missile batteries. It dismantled Iran's drone production lines. It suppressed Iran's air defenses. By every conventional measure of naval power, Iran was defeated in the first 2 weeks of Operation Epic Fury. The Strait of Hormuz has been effectively closed for 6 weeks, not because Iran can fight the Navy. Iran cannot. That calculation was settled definitively because Iran seeded 2,000 mines in a 6-mile corridor before the fighting started. And those mines created a risk environment that the Lloyd's war risk market cannot price with confidence. And when Lloyd's cannot price the risk, the war risk policies are suspended or exclusion-laden. And when the policies are suspended, the 74 to 1 downside exposure makes commercial voyages irrational. And when commercial voyages are irrational, 250 ships sit at anchor regardless of how many carriers are in the theater. Iran did not build a weapon to defeat the Navy. Iran built a conditions-setting operation designed to make the commercial shipping market do Iran's work for them. The mine is not the weapon. The mine is the mechanism. The weapon is the actuarial uncertainty the mine creates. An actuarial uncertainty cannot be destroyed by an SM-6 missile. It cannot be suppressed by a carrier air wing. It cannot be swept by an MH-53E Sea Dragon. It dissolves only when enough time passes, with enough mine clearance progress, that an underwriter in London calculates that the probability of a hull loss in the corridor has dropped below his book's risk threshold. Iran understood something that 40 years of studying American naval power taught them. The United States Navy is built to defeat threats. It is not built to manage uncertainty. Those are different problems. And the second one is not in the Navy's doctrine, its training, or its weapons inventory. The Navy fights the mine. The mine creates the uncertainty. The uncertainty closes the strait, and the uncertainty cannot be fought. It can only be waited out. 3 carriers, $40 billion a week, 250 ships at anchor, waiting for a phone call from London. Go back to where we started. 250 ships, sitting still, $50,000 a day in waiting costs, going nowhere. The U.S. Navy offered every one of them the same thing. 2 destroyers, 4 helicopters, 2 fighters overhead, a mine-cleared lane updated every 6 hours, the most expensive convoy escort package ever assembled. The captain said no, not because the Navy is not capable, not because the escort is not genuine, because the captain's decision is not made at the pier. It is made in 4 offices in London, Oslo, Athens, and Tokyo before he ever sees the destroyer. And in those offices, 4 parties are running the same calculation. Hull value, $200 million. Mine exclusion clause in the policy. Freight revenue, $4 million. Net margin above war costs, $3, $5 million. Downside of a mine event, $260 million uninsured. 74-1. No admiral can change that ratio. No carrier can change that ratio. No combat air patrol flying 24 hours a day can sign an insurance endorsement. The strait opens when that ratio becomes acceptable. And it becomes acceptable when the mine clearance has progressed far enough that the actuarial uncertainty drops below the threshold that allows an underwriter in London to write the policy without the mine exclusion clause. That is the variable that reopens Hormuz. Not military victory, not more ships, not a third carrier. A signature on a document in an office building in the city of London by a man whose job title is not admiral, not general, not commander. Underwriter. Iran spent 40 years studying the United States Navy. They learned everything about how it fights. They learned its weapons, its doctrine, its escort formations, its electronic warfare capability. And then they designed a strategy that does not require defeating any of it. They designed a strategy that routes around the Navy entirely. Through the insurance market, through maritime law, through the seafarer's right of refusal, through the flag state approval process. They built a weapon the Navy cannot shoot, a risk environment. And 250 tankers sitting still in the Gulf of Oman are the proof that it worked. The most powerful Navy in human history is waiting for an actuary, and the actuary is waiting for the mines to be gone. If this changed how you see the Hormuz closure, subscribe to War Vision and drop the Lloyds in the comments. Next week, why Iran is laying mines faster than the Sea Dragon can clear them, and what that means for the timeline the actuary is watching. The phone call from London has not been made yet. We will tell you when the math changes. Subscribe to War Vision. We do not report the war. We decode the decisions that the war cannot make. And right now, the most important decision in the global energy market is being made not in the Pentagon, not in Tehran, not on the bridge of a carrier, in an office in London, by someone reading an actuarial table,